Welcome to RIA Horror 101. Today, we are diving deep into the horrific case of Bipsy Amirian. Please hit the subscribe button and like. Now, let's begin. In the sun-drenched suburbs of Southern California, Bipsy Amirian and Mickey Wagstaff were making beautiful music together. But this wasn't just any love song. This was the kind of duet that seemed destined for forever, until it became a swan song soaked in blood. Let me take you back to the beginning. Elizabeth Bipsy Amirian was 27 years old in early 2009, living in the Temecula Valley, a place known for its rolling vineyards and quiet family dreams. She was an artist through and through, a singer-songwriter, a seamstress, a hopeless romantic with bold tattoos that told the story of her soul. Those tattoos weren't just ink, they were a mosaic of her customized faith. Symbols from Christianity and Judaism blended together like the patchwork quilt she was turning into her own wedding dress. Bipsy wanted the fairy tale. She wanted the white picket fence, the babies, the stable husband who would never raise a hand in anger. She had written songs about it. She had dreamed about it since she was a little girl trapped in a house ruled by fear. Bipsy's childhood was anything but a fairy tale. Her biological father was a religious tyrant, strict, controlling, and violently abusive. The family lived in terror. He beat the children. He controlled every move they made. No driving, no friends, no freedom. He cheated on their mother openly and threatened to kill her if she ever left, all while forcing the family to pray for redemption. Bipsy's mother, Cheryl, stayed for years out of fear for her kids. But when Bipsy was 12, Cheryl finally found the courage to divorce him and escape with the children. What should have been freedom became something else. Freed from the cage, teenage Bipsy spiraled. Drugs, alcohol, sex, the occult. She was desperately trying to seize control of her life after years of having none. She dabbled in spells, superstition, anything that promised power. Twice she attempted suicide. She was, in her own mother's words, hell-bent on destroying herself. Desperate, Cheryl sent her to a church camp. Bipsy fought it tooth and nail. "If you make me go, I'll hate you forever." But something miraculous happened there. Bipsy had a spiritual awakening. She dropped to her knees and gave her life to God, but not the rigid, fear-based version her father had shoved down her throat. From that moment, Bipsy built her own faith. She read everything, Christianity, Judaism, mysticism, and took what spoke to her soul. She became the free-spirited indie artist who refused to let any pastor dictate truth. Her tattoos became her testimony. Her music became her voice. By her mid-20s, Bipsy had turned her life around. She quit her barista job to pursue music full-time. She was recording an album she planned to release in March 2009, the same month she was supposed to walk down the aisle. She sewed her own wedding dress from vintage gowns bought online, turning scraps into something beautiful, just like she had done with her own broken life. Her mother remembers that day vividly. February 9th, 2009. Bipsy showed up excited, holding the patchwork dress. "Oh my gosh, Mom, look at this." They laughed, hugged, and talked about the future. Bipsy seemed ready. She wanted the happy marriage, the children, the stability she had never known. But something was off. Her mom noticed the excitement felt manufactured, forced, like Bipsy was trying to convince herself. Because Bipsy had found her dream man, or so she thought. 25-year-old Mickey David Beauchamp Wagstaff. Clean-cut, polite, God-fearing. He worked at a restaurant supply company, traveled often, and came from a strict Seventh-day Adventist background. Homeschooled, youth leader, volunteer at soup kitchens and mission trips. The kind of guy who said yes ma'am and meant it. They met in summer 2007 at a coffee shop in Murrieta. Bipsy was performing, raw, real, captivating. Mickey and his twin brother were in the audience. Mickey was mesmerized. Everything about her went against his church's rules. The tattoos, the bold style, the free spirit, but he couldn't look away. He approached her after the show. "You were amazing." They talked for hours. He lavished her with flowers, wine, songs, constant texts. For a woman who had grown up with a controlling father and later an obsessed stalker ex-boyfriend named Kurt, who had stalked her, threatened her life, and forced her to get a restraining order, Mickey felt like safety, structure, the stability she craved. They dated for over a year. They agreed to save themselves for marriage, a huge commitment for both of them. Passion burned, but faith held the line. In Christmas Eve 2008, Mickey proposed in a surprise moment Bipsy would never forget. "Bipsy, will you marry me?" She said yes instantly. This was her dream coming true. But not everyone was happy. Mickey's family and church were horrified. Bipsy's tattoos, her eclectic faith, her questions in Bible study. She didn't fit their mold of a quiet, modest Seventh-day Adventist wife. The church basically told Mickey to choose, her or us. He chose her. His parents disowned him, kicked him out. He lost everything for love. Bipsy tried to fit in. She covered her tattoos, dressed more conservatively, went to his church even when the pastor told her to leave after she dared to ask questions about heaven and rules. She told friends, "I know the church is a little weird, but they're nice people. I can make this work." But cracks were forming. Mickey had given up his entire world for her, family, church, home. Now she was his everything, and that kind of pressure can twist even the gentlest man. Bipsy started noticing changes. He became controlling, shadowing her, forbidding her from family events, getting angry when she didn't do things his way. He criticized her wedding plans. "You're doing it wrong. It looks stupid. Why can't you just be normal?" In her private journal, the one only she and later investigators would read, Bipsy wrote the heartbreaking truth. "Why do I have to settle for Prince Acceptable? I shouldn't have to do that." She was realizing she had been so desperate for marriage and stability that she hadn't stopped to ask, is Mickey really Mr. Right, or is he just another version of the controlling man she had escaped as a child? The tiger in her, that fierce, independent spirit that had survived abuse, suicide attempts, and self-destruction, was waking up again. The day after showing her mom the dress, Monday, February 10th, 2009, Bipsy called Mickey. She wasn't happy. She didn't scream, "It's over," but she made it clear she was having serious doubts. The wedding might need to be postponed, or worse. Mickey panicked. He convinced her to go on an out-of-town sales call with him. "Let's just talk, get away, figure this out." She agreed, trying to be kind, trying to end things gently. He picked her up. They drove off together. Her phone would later go straight to voicemail. Batteries die, right? That's what her mom told herself. But Mickey's boss knew something was wrong immediately. The day before, Mickey had looked scared. He skipped an important meeting without a word, completely out of character for the dependable, structure-loving guy everyone knew. 2 days passed. No calls, no texts. Friends started whispering about Bipsy's old stalker ex-boyfriend, Kurt. Could he have come back? But this had nothing to do with Kurt. Bipsy and Mickey had vanished. The wedding was less than a month away. Her beautiful patchwork dress was almost finished. Their passports were ready for a secret honeymoon. But Bipsy had one final secret she only shared with her journal. She was done settling. As they drove away that Monday, Bipsy thought she was heading towards an honest conversation. She had no idea she was stepping into a 2-day nightmare from which she would never return. Bipsy Amirian and Mickey Wagstaff had just driven off together. She wanted to talk about postponing the wedding, but he wanted to keep her forever. What happened next is one of the most disturbing domestic violence cases Southern California has ever seen. They didn't get far. Mickey pulled into a parking garage at the Promenade Mall in Temecula, just blocks from Bipsy's mother's house, a place so close help could have come if anyone had known. The argument exploded. Bipsy told him clearly the wedding was off. She couldn't marry him.
He was becoming exactly like her abusive father, controlling, angry, possessive. Mickey lost it. "You're not leaving me!" He punched her, tied her ankles with one of his dress shirts so she couldn't run. He raped her, a crime of pure power and ownership. She was no longer his fiancée, she was his prisoner. For 2 days, he drove her around, keeping her locked in the back of the minivan he had been living in for months. A mattress soaked in blood would later tell the story. He had given up everything for her: family, church, home. Now she was his everything, and that kind of pressure can twist even the gentlest man. February 12, 2009, 2 days into the nightmare. Routine patrol. Riverside County Surf Sheriff Keith Notke was driving through the 3rd level of the Promenade Mall parking garage. He
Noticed the minivan parked far from other cars. Tinted windows. Suspicious. He pulled up, got out, and tapped on the window. What he saw next would stay with him forever. Mickey turned, holding a hunting knife. He made a stabbing motion toward the officer. Sergeant Notek jumped back, called for backup, and watched in horror as Mickey began plunging the knife downward, over and over into the woman lying in the back. Officers smashed the window, tased Mickey, dragged him out. Inside the van, pure horror. Bipsy Amirian was dead, stabbed 39 times, mostly in the head, neck, and back. Many wounds centered directly on the religious tattoo she cherished most, the one that symbolized her love for God. Mickey had destroyed it, stabbed her in the back, literally and symbolically. Blood everywhere, the mattress soaked, her legs still bound, her face frozen in an expression of total betrayal. Mickey had been living in that van, sleeping next to her body for hours after the killing. He even tried to commit suicide afterward, cutting his wrists and stabbing himself in the chest. When he recovered from the taser, he confessed everything. He told detectives he panicked when the officer appeared. He had already raped her. He was afraid of getting caught. But deeper than that, he couldn't let her leave. She was his entire world. In court, the defense tried to paint it as a moment of mental instability, a man who had lost his family and church, sexually naive, living in a van, snapping under pressure. "That's a lot of crazy going on," his attorney said. The prosecution saw it for what it was: a calculated nightmare, a 2-day kidnapping, a rape, a brutal murder so he could own her in death if he couldn't in life. Prosecutor Jennifer Garcia told the jury she didn't ever see this coming. He stabbed her until she was dead and then some. He didn't want her life to go on without him in it. On December 1, 2011, the jury convicted Mickey David Beauchamp Wagstaff of first-degree murder with special circumstances, murder during a kidnapping and during a sexual assault. January 27, 2012, sentencing day. Riverside County Superior Court Judge Mark Mandio gave him life in prison without the possibility of parole. Bipsy's family spoke. Her brother Isaac stared Mickey down. Mickey deceived, manipulated, and then killed Bipsy. Her stepfather wished he could have put him through a wood chipper. Her mother carried the guilt of not knowing her daughter was just blocks away, fighting for her life. Bipsy's friends remembered the talented artist who had survived so much, only to be taken by the one man she thought would save her. The same man who had once been a youth leader, a volunteer, a God-fearing fiancé. Bipsy Amirian had survived an abusive childhood. She had clawed her way out of drugs and despair. She had built a beautiful spiritual life filled with music and love. She was days away from releasing her album, weeks away from what she thought would be her dream wedding. Instead, she became another statistic in the war against domestic violence, a woman who recognized the red flags too late. Her story is a warning. The controlling behavior, the isolation, the religious fervor masking jealousy and rage, the man who gives up everything for you and then expects you to become his everything. If you or someone you love is in a relationship where you feel trapped, shadowed, or afraid to leave, please listen to that tiger inside you, the one Bipsy had. Get out. Call for help. Bipsy's mother still says she feels her daughter's presence. I started to cry like my heart was crushed, and I didn't know why. A mother's intuition 2 days before they found her body. Mickey Wagstaff will die in prison, but Bipsy's music, her spirit, her fight, those live on. In loving memory of Elizabeth Bipsy Amirian, February 12, 2009. Never forgotten. Please like, subscribe, and share. Drop a comment if you believe Bipsy's story needs to be told. Thanks for watching.